Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In Magic the Gathering Arena, I wanted to show off this new historic deck that I put together. It was something that I was thinking about doing, but I kept putting it off because I was using wild cards for other stuff. But I opened all of those alchemy packs, so I got a bunch of wild cards there, and then I got this far with this deck. This is not finished. I'm going to do some testing. I haven't played with it more than like half a dozen times. So I might want to cut some cards, I might want to put in more copies of some cards, but I think I have at least one copy of all of the cards that I want to put in here, so we can have a look. And you might think I am a moron to craft a historic deck with the alchemy changes, but they don't bother me, and I'm not worried. I think some people are worried about like future nerfs to cards in historic. But for one thing, they are not here yet, so to get upset about them when they haven't even happened yet, I think is premature. And then also, looking at the buffs and the nerfs that they did for the existing cards, none of them really like killed any of the cards. So like even if, you know, one of these cards gets made totally useless, the deck is still going to be very useful and very fun, I think. So yeah, I'm not worried about the alchemy stuff. But for some background, I became very interested in the black-red steal and sacrifice mechanic when I did my first ever draft, which was a Kaldheim draft. And I watched a video about like what cards or what colors would be good to draft, and then they showed a combo with black and red where you could, actually with this card here, steal a unit with this card and then sacrifice it with something else, and I thought that was very cool. And then black and red, those are colors that I really like to use, so yeah, I've been working towards this one. I was using just kind of a generic black and red Rakdos deck for the steal and sacrifice, but I saw more and more vampire cards as I was like digging through all of the cards available. And I was wondering if an all-vampire deck was possible for the steal and sacrifice. And so that's what I'm aiming for here. And then one nice thing about especially the latest set, the Crimson Vow, they have blood tokens. And blood tokens are helpful for kind of cycling through your cards. And that was maybe one problem that I discovered playing this, was that I would run out of cards or I wouldn't get the other cards that I wanted. So yeah, like late game, if I have just like one land in my hand, I can get rid of the blood token and then change it for something else. Okay, but let's look at what the cards I have do. First is a blood fountain from the new set. This will create a blood token when you put it in, and then you can sacrifice the artifact to get back creatures. Blood tokens are good for how I just said. And then I'm going to be sacrificing some of my creatures as I go through the game. So to be able to get them back will be very cool. So yeah, coming and going. This is a good card. Next, Indulgent Aristocrat. I need lots of ways to sacrifice guys. And this is a very cheap one. He comes out very cheaply. He can come out turn 1. It does cost 2 for him to sacrifice people. But I don't have to tap him. And then if I do sacrifice somebody, I can put a +1/+1 on all of my other creatures. Since all of my creatures are vampires, they'll all get buffed, so that's kind of cool. And then I got this guy. I think this is just a strong unit for 1 mana, but both Death Touch and Lifelink. And she can be buffed by the guy that we just looked at, so yeah. And I wouldn't feel too bad about sacrificing them if I needed it for something. But the characters, or the creatures that I want to sacrifice most are the opponent creatures that I steal. And then I can use a card like this to grab them. I might want to get 4 copies of this, but I haven't used the wild cards quite yet. And then here's the alternate artwork version here. Okay, and then we got Blood Artist. A lot of creatures are going to die, and then it doesn't even have to be opponent creatures, it can be my own, so here I can gain life and then hit the opponent. And then a Carrier Thrall. This is one of the best targets for sacrificing my own guys. It's a vampire on the one hand, so it can get buffed, and on the other hand, if it dies, it creates another character, and I can also sacrifice them. So, yeah, these guys are pretty expendable. I was very happy to use the wild cards on a playset there. And then here's another vampire that can sacrifice another. This one's nice because it only costs 1 to sacrifice rather than the 2. But this one costs 2 to put out, so yeah, it's kind of tit for tat. And then this guy will explore. I can look at the top card of my library. If it's a land, put it in my hand. Otherwise, I can choose to put it in the graveyard or back on top of my deck. And then I can buff this guy, so yeah, he's pretty good. Use the 4 wild cards on him too. Here's another vampire from the newest set. This one will create a blood token every time a character that I control dies. And then if I have enough blood tokens, I can flip her, although I'm not really counting on flipping her. It's more about creating the blood tokens for guys dying. I might want to craft more of her, but I just have the one that I pulled randomly from a pack. And then here, this is maybe the card that I'm most interested in. I only have the one for now. Depending on how much I like it moving ahead, I might craft more. But 2/2 Vampire for 3, haste. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on him, and then I can sacrifice another creature to make him indestructible. Indestructible is great, but this costs no mana to sacrifice another character, so this guy's a very nice sacrifice engine. Let's see, here's Sanguine Brushstroke. This is from the new Alchemy set. It's an enchantment. It'll create a Blood Artist and then also a Blood Token, and then when I sacrifice Blood Tokens, I gain life, they lose life. This is a very good card, and probably I would be better off putting in more copies of this than using the Blood Artists. But for now, I'll save the wild cards and just use the one copy that I have. And then here is another new card from the new set, Bloody Betrayal. These red cards are very important for stealing the opponent creatures so that I can sacrifice them. But this one's great because it creates the blood token. This might be the best version of this spell. But another version that I have is, again, the one that I showed before. This one will destroy equipment, which I find is more useful than like, what is it, get a buff with, or a scry if there's werewolves, or the other one where if you use treasure you can give a buff. I don't have any treasure generating capabilities with this deck, so I think destroying the odd artifact is good. And then here's a sweeper, 2 damage to everybody except for vampires, so basically it's just 2 damage on all of the opponent characters. There was one funny match where, what was it, blue-black rogue deck. They were milling me pretty hard, but I waited until their hand was empty, and then I used this and I killed all of their guys, and then this guy was out. He became like a 7/7 because I killed all of their guys and then they quit. That was pretty good. I'm wondering if I want to put in more copies of this, but 2 for now. That's what I've pulled randomly. It's only uncommon as well, so it's tempting to craft it. And then a Dominating Vampire. I pulled this yesterday, very happy about that. But this is a character plus a steal mechanic in one. It gets more usable as you have more vampires, but I have lots of vampires, so this one's pretty good. I might want to craft more of this too. Okay, here's another sweeper. This can hit everybody except for vampires. Pretty strong. It can also get indestructible people. I might want to craft more of this. And then here is Anya. I think that's how you say it. I just crafted this morning just to see what she is like. But she costs 4, so she's a little bit more expensive. But when vampires enter the battlefield, that creates even more blood. And then I can spend 2 to sacrifice another creature. So yeah, she could be another sacrifice engine. And then we got the good old Innistrad Predator. I've had a couple of these for a long while, and yeah, they're great. Also, they can sacrifice for free, so it's easy to sacrifice with them. Okay, and then I have some lands. I have the Phyrexian Tower here. I can also sacrifice people for free. I might want to make more of these. And then I have a bunch of dual lands for black and red. I might want to craft more of these, but yeah, these are cool to have. Okay, so that is a look at my deck. I'm debating if I want to go to like, 70 or 80 or more cards to go against mill decks, and just include more copies of everything here. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.